Now let's move into gaming and tech, and this is gaming and tech the way it was intended. It's a big section this week. In gaming and tech, we have the Smash Brothers Killer is getting a sequel. We're going to talk about that. Plus, the Screen Actors Guild strike is going to expand even as the writers' strike is contracting and actually going away. But we're going to talk about that in movies, as well as iPhone 15 launched. So we've got a couple of things to talk about there. Plus, I can get you hooked up with a free PlayStation 5 game. There is a giant caveat to that though, so let's get into gaming and tech, shall we? Welcome, nerds, to the gaming and tech news for the week. This is a clip that has been taken out of the main show, The Week in Nerddom, which goes up on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. In gaming and tech, we like to talk about, well, you know, gaming and tech, trailers, announcements for new tech and games and consoles and everything in between that is gaming and or tech related. So this week in gaming and tech, all of this stuff happened, starting with follow-ups and corrections. Our follow-up this week is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. The sequel finally has a release date, and that is November 3rd. So one of the two, because the other one was Warner Brothers Multiverses, and that one is still on hiatus, but it is supposed to be coming back. But one of the two big Smash Brothers killers, the casual, I forget exactly the kind of, the subgenre of fighting games that they created for Smash Brothers, and games like that. Brawlhalla is one of those. But yeah, the Nickelodeon All-Stars Volume 2 is happening November 3rd. Let's move on. Next up, we have regular ass news to get out of the way, and so let's get into the strikes. SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild, has authorized, they are not going to strike just yet, but has authorized a strike should it be needed for the next round of negotiations for the actors' contracts with the gaming industry. The negotiations are supposed to happen sometime before the end of this month. If you want to see specifically like which developers or publishers or whatever are involved in the strike, you can follow the link down in the description. That is the best way to do it. But if anything comes from this, which it very likely will, we will be keeping tabs as needed. From there, though, let's move into, this is a super techie, nerdy thing. So if you're not an audio producer, if you're not an audio guy in general, audio person in general, I should say, then this is probably going to bore you, and I apologize. So skip forward a little bit and we'll try and get past this as quick as possible. But if you are an audiophile like myself, then this is kind of huge, honestly. So what it is, I'm totally burying the lead here. PreSonus and Bitwig, both developers of their own DAW software, digital audio workspace software, the non-linear workspaces that everyone in the industry uses. Pro Tools is technically a DAW, but it's not made by either of these guys. Either way, I'm rambling. PreSonus and Bitwig have teamed up together to try and develop a DAW universal file format. So at first, when they finally launch it, because it is still in the alpha stages, if I'm remembering this correctly, it could be beta stages, but either way, it's not available to the public just yet. But once it is available to the public, what it is going to do is, if you are using PreSonus's software or if you're using Bitwig's software and you have a co-conspirator, somebody who is editing the information with you in tandem to some degree, then and they're using the opposite software, then you're not going to have to make sure you both are running the same software once this file format is completed. You're just going to need to make sure that you both have the same plugins, which is a huge, huge relief, because the way it currently works, like when I'm sending files back and forth with my audio partners, usually what happens is we have to render out a file, or a project rather, into its individual stems. A stem is basically the track for an instrument. So like all of the guitar takes that we did mixed down into one track, and then that gets exported as its own individual audio file called a stem, usually in WAV format because it's uncompressed. So if you have 5 members of your band, then generally stems come in 5 different, you're gonna have drum stem, you're gonna have 2 guitar stems, you're gonna have bass stem, you're gonna have vocal stem. And unless, depending on the project. So you have to render out those stems, send them off to your partner, who is then going to import them into their DAW software. And that DAW software, if you have different VST plugins, you have different anything really aside from just the hardware, then you're going to have to then re-render these stems with any work that you have done to them and send them back over. And this is honestly the TLDR version of this process. This is a very involved process as it stands right now. And there is more than just those 2 DAWs, PreSonus and Bitwig. I don't use either of those. I don't use Pro Tools either. I use 2 different ones actually. I use Adobe Audition as well as Reaper, because Reaper is 10 times, a million times cheaper than any of the other ones, and it's easy for us to communicate through Reaper. But so they're trying to, PreSonus and Bitwig, coming back to the story, they're trying to make the audio format as available as possible to all DAW developers. So hopefully someday Reaper will have this option available so that I can transfer my Reaper projects back and forth with Adobe Audition. Hopefully Adobe would get in on this boat as well, but who knows, because Adobe. But either way, that's pretty freaking huge, and I apologize for rambling. Let's get back to the things that the normies will like. Let's continue on, shall we? Next up, we have Amazon for the first time in this section. This one is the less than exciting one. Amazon is getting sued by the FTC. That is correct. You heard me right. They're getting sued by more than just a couple of states and the District of Columbia. Now they are also getting sued by the governing body of the trade, the Federal Trade Commission. So the FTC alleges that Amazon is preventing its merchants from offering lower prices on other platforms and forces them to use Amazon's logistics services, which the FTC claims to be monopoly practices. So that's what they're being sued for running a monopoly. That's pretty freaking huge. Like I said, the lawsuit is joined by 17 other states as well as DC. So something's gonna come of this, and we will definitely be keeping tabs when it does. From there, we have some discussion on the iPhone. This is gaming too, so we've got a little bit of tech, a little bit of gaming here. First up, the tech part. The iPhone 15 Pro Max just launched, and so it's getting reviewed by everybody, and iFixit has given it, because the big thing that they're trying to say that they're a part of the consumer repair community isn't exactly true. So according to iFixit, on a score out of 10, they have given the iPhone 15 Pro Max a 4 for its repairability as far as how it relates to the end user. So end user repairability for an iPhone 15 Pro Max, pretty minimal. There are some things that you are able to fix, though there's a lot of things that you can't, largely because of the way their software is run on the phone. So that's pretty freaking significant. But that is not the only thing we're talking about here for the iPhone 15 Pro. iPhone 15 Pro Max and iPhone 15, I think the entire family line of iPhone 15s is marking, I guess I should say, a bit of a change for the way Apple is perceiving the gaming community, because it is very noteworthy that the Resident Evil The Village, so Resident Evil 8, is running on the iPhone. Like, they're offering it in the Apple Store. You can buy this game for your iPhone, or for the M1, the M1 processor chips, the iPads with the M1 processor in them. I forget exactly which models they are, but this is kind of a big transition from Apple being very not friendly to game developers, and now they're offering big games, huge AAA titles in their online download store. As well as the Village, we also have Death Stranding and Assassin's Creed Mirage. So they're really getting in on this. I'm very intrigued what the future holds with this new outlook on life that Apple has these days. That's all we got there though, so let's move over to Platinum Games. This one is kind of all over gaming news right now. Platinum Games co-founder Hideki Kamiya, sorry if I know I mispronounced that name and I apologize right now. Hideki Kamiya is leaving Platinum Games. Hideki was part of the development process for games like Bayonetta and Wonderful 101. It doesn't exactly say what happened. There is a lot of speculation about things that could have happened behind closed doors. Project GG is kind of central to all of that speculation. That is the game that he was currently working on, and now he's not, or he's taking the IP with him wherever he goes, and that has not been decided just yet. But a titan of the industry is heading out on his own, so things are going to get interesting, I would imagine. Next up on the list, let's talk about that free PlayStation 5 game, shall we? So Sony is trying to get a lot more people to convert, be it from PS4 to the PS5 or maybe from the Xbox to the PS5. It doesn't necessarily matter. As long as you purchase a brand new PlayStation 5 console, you get a free AAA title. So there is a caveat to this, but let's go over the list of games that you can pick from, because it's not just whatever game you want, but there's some pretty big hitters in here. So the list is as follows. You can pick from Spider-Man Remastered, Spider-Man Miles Morales, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Demon's Souls, yes, The Last of Us Part 1, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Returnal, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, and Death Stranding Director's Cut. So if you are thinking of maybe I should get a PlayStation for Christmas, maybe if you can make it work sooner, the better, because the big caveat here is you have to purchase a brand new console. So anyone who purchased, or anyone who has purchased and activated their console previous to September 23rd, you do not qualify. But as of September 23rd, if you buy a new PlayStation 5 console, you get one of those 12 games for free. Until October 20th. The cutoff date for this is October 20th, which is why I say if you're thinking about getting it for Christmas, maybe scrape together the fundage a little bit quicker and do it sooner so you can jump into this console generation with some AAA gaming at hand, because it ain't cheap these days. But yeah, so that's what we got there. Let's move over back to Amazon. This one's the exciting one, but not necessarily in a good way. So Amazon Prime is getting a little bit more expensive, kind of, and in very interesting ways. So if you currently have Amazon Prime, you don't have to change anything. You will not be paying more money for your service, but your service is going to change ever so slightly. You're still going to have the same access to programming that you do up till now, but going forward as of sometime early 2024, they haven't said exactly when this is rolling out, but sometime early 2024, it's going to be commercial. You're going to get commercials. So you're going to see commercials in the programming on Amazon Prime, which is something we don't have currently. If you want to upgrade your service so that you don't see these commercials, it's going to cost you an extra $3 a month. So like I said, it's a little murky, a little kind of goofy, but that is definitely the way it is. So this program is being rolled out in the US, the UK, Germany, and Canada. Like I said, sometime early 2024. It will be rolled out the rest of the world over shortly thereafter, but a time frame has not been made available. We will keep you posted, but let's move on. That is the last regular ass piece of news. So let's talk gaming and tech suggestion. It's Mortal Kombat 1. What can I say? It's Mortal Kombat 1. No reason to beat around the bush. This game rocks. We're gonna talk a little bit about it in That Just Happened this week, because I meant to do it last week, but didn't happen because last week's episode didn't happen. So yeah, we're gonna get into it a little bit. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's still pretty great. So definitely it's worth the money to buy it right now while it's still brand new. Mortal Kombat 1. I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's keep going. Once again, this is just the gaming and tech section. It is a shortened piece of the much longer news show that I do over on youtube.com/generallynerdy, which is the main channel. There's a lot more music and comic books and movies and TV shows, etc., that can be found over there on the regular show. Thank you for joining me here, though, nerds. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.